Coming up and down Rookie Rule, we take on two teams who last season were up in the Bundesliga, in Werder Bremen and Heidenheim. But if we can pick up points from those two games, then we could sneak our way into the all-important top three. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 47 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well and come up today, 2 games away from home against teams who last season were up in the Bundesliga. First up, we'll take on Werder Bremen, and off the back of me taking on Eintracht Braunschweig back at the Jahn Stadion Regensburg. Then we'll travel to take on Heidenheim, who it's fair to say are doing a much better job than Werder Bremen have been so far in this 2 Bundesliga season. But this one comes off the back of yesterday's episode, including that last game we did play against Fortuna Düsseldorf. So if you missed that one, which also included a few transfers as well, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Thankfully, we picked up wins in the on-camera games. We did drop points, though, against Wiesbaden, which was a little bit random, seeing as those guys did come up from the Free Liga for this season. So that was disappointing, but otherwise, some pretty good form to start this season here at Jahn Regensburg, especially off the back of binning off that 4-4-2 in that group of first game. Still not too sure what happened there. We were absolutely awful, but it does mean going into today's episode, we sit in 4th, and we've got this game in hand now over Mainz. So if we can pick up a win here over Werder Bremen, we'll jump above them into 3rd spot, maybe depending on goal differential, could even jump above Heidenheim into an automatic promotion one as well. So big game first up for us here. In today's episode, we take on this Werder Bremen team who were up in the Bundesliga last season and were supposed to be the preseason favourites, but they've been pretty rubbish so far, sitting down in 13th in their form of late. Not too great. They've only picked up one win. That was against Kaiserslautern, a draw off the back of that against Dynamo Dresden, and surrounded by losses to Hertha Berlin, Hanover, and Grufer Firth. So kind of hoping here that despite the fact this one is away from home, that maybe we can pick up a win here over Daniel Schöning's men with the 5-2-1-2. Definitely interesting formation. Maybe that's something we need to consider to try and get something to work there with a 2 up top system. But not much has changed off the back of that second game in yesterday's episode, seeing as this is our very next one. We've got a couple of injuries. Leighton Stewart, thankfully, has returned from a tight calf. He picked up a little niggle there in that game where we did beat Fortuna Düsseldorf. Thankfully, he's fine to start this one here at Werder Bremen. Unfortunately, Aaron Ramsey still out with a hamstring strain. I think he picked up in that first game. He's out for 1 to 2 more days, so definitely should be back once we do go forward to the Heidenheim game, because that one comes off the back of an international break. So to be fair, going to make our way for a decent chunk of time during today's episode, even though there is only 3 games. But fingers crossed there, we can continue our good results on camera. You'll see there's some results from the game so far. Heidenheim did get beaten by Hanover, which does allow us the chance here to hopefully move our way up to 2nd if we can pick up a winner at the very least into 3rd spot, and hopefully make that second game of today's episode quite a big one. Could be a big opportunity for us there to hopefully jump above those guys and into one of those automatic promotion spots. The same starting 11 as we had for that second game yesterday's episode, so it does mean that Myers there at left wing, because our new signing in Stollery hasn't been good enough since he's joined the club, and also we've got Allen there with that injury to Ramsey. So those are the changes to our usual best 11, but the same team that picked up that win over Fortuna Düsseldorf. Fingers crossed there they can do the same, despite the fact this one is away from home. So you'd expect this to be a tougher test for us. Not too sure will they continue to ask us about Christian VA. He's our 3rd choice right back these days. He's not going to get picked unless we suffer injuries there to Ostlic or to Pal Fernandez. But there's our lineup, the same that got the job done over Fortuna Düsseldorf. And as I said, if we win this game, we will jump up to 3rd, but hopefully, if we can score a few goals here on Werder Bremen, might even jump above Heidenheim into 2nd and set up a big clash. 2nd up in today's episode. If we could grab a gap over those guys, that would be very useful. But early stages here, it is the home team on the front foot. Obviously, they are the preseason favourites, so not expecting this to be a walk in the park, but their form of late hasn't been too good. Stewart there was trying to set up a counter-attack. Unfortunately, though, Carlson does get that ball back here for the home team in the green and white. A nice through ball there for Sekou Mara, who puts it away, but it looked like he was offside. Fingers crossed that was the case anyway. Pretty sure the assistant referee in the bottom right corner just above my head put his flag up. Thankfully, that was the case. On early chance there for Werder Bremen, which they put away. Thankfully, they just stray offside there through their striker. Not too much, but thankfully our defence there does hold a good line. Lukic got beaten, but it won't count. But early stages of Werder Bremen do look like they're on the front foot, albeit stats-wise, now we're starting to find our feet. Of course, with this Buxton base, we can be quite a slow starter, but usually work our way into the game quite well. But unfortunately, it still looks like here Werder Bremen are getting all the highlights. Good chance there for Jensen, but thankfully, that one just on the wrong side of that left-hand upright. So thankfully, Werder Bremen not taking their chances here while they're on the front foot, at least in terms of the highlights we're seeing. Stats-wise, we're not doing too badly. Just haven't seen anything so far in the match engine. Will continue to encourage him. Fingers crossed we get something here before we make our way into halftime. Just a half hour in. We're looking okay stats-wise, but no highlights yet, which is a little bit concerning as we make our way now into the final 5 minutes of this first half. It's been pretty quick so far. Hopefully get something here before halftime. We don't. And a couple of players out there on some average ranks, in particular Leighton Stewart on that 6.4. So I think here we take him off for Veloso, and also Lewis Walden actually struggling on a 6.3. So Greenwood at right wing alongside Veloso. Fingers crossed he might get the job done here. Probably not a bad idea to take off Stewart anyway, coming back from that niggle he picked up in that Dusseldorf game. We'll tell the guys they're doing well, but truth be told, not too sure if that's the case. Haven't seen too much from them so far in this game, apart from that counter attack we tried to get going with Leighton Stewart, but then the highlight ended up being that offside goal to Werder Bremen. So far, but hard to judge how we're getting on in this game. It's been a little bit of a dull one. Jensen, though, does get forced from the field for Werder Bremen, so maybe that's something which might throw them off a little bit. And also now they pick up a yellow card. But unfortunately, Werder Bremen, another highlight here, which might be in their favour of throwing inside of our half. Thankfully, putting a good press on them, but they eventually find some space there down their right-hand side through Carlson. We try and mark him tightly there. That will be through Dawn. They put that one into the mixer. It gets pushed away, but Isaac Hansen Aronson can put it away off the back of that push away. I think that would have been from our goalkeeper in Lukic, and they make it 1-0 to be fair based on the highlights we're seeing. Hard to argue they don't deserve the lead stats-wise. It's a pretty even game, but unfortunately, Werder Bremen, they do make it 1-0. Off the back of that, now Max Meyer drops down to a 6.4. So Stollery is on the bench for this one. Let's see what he can do. And also, looks like we're creating chances stats-wise, just not quite taking them well. So maybe dropping down to a lower tempo like we did at Buxton might help here, albeit now a free kick to Werder Bremen. They go far post, thankfully. That one goes just wide, but Werder Bremen so far, all the highlights in their favour. Stats-wise, though, not actually doing that badly. So fingers crossed here, just lowering of our tempo might pay off, and we finally get some time on the ball here from this free kick. Takes us a little while here, though, to get going down our right-hand side. Eventually, Ostojic starts to make his way for Greenwood now. We'll square that one nicely for Charlie Allen, who picks up his first goal of the season. Of course, coming in for the injured Aaron Ramsey. Was just thinking if we should take him off on that 6.4. Thankfully, won't need to do that now because he picks up a goal. But just dropping that tempo a little bit, and straight away we pick up a goal. Greenwood off the bench there for Walden, sets it up, and thankfully Allen there does beat the goalkeeper just inside that near post. Back all square here with still 25 minutes left and what's been a very, very even game stats-wise, even possession, which usually we dominate here with our Buxton-based style tactic. We're not on top of that either. It's 50-50, but with our final sub here, we'll bring on Garcia for Bilic on that yellow card, and also, in fact, let's bring on Sousa for Dawn, just going a bit fairly on a 6.5 to be fair off the back of that really good debut he burst up in yesterday's episode. He's been pretty fair since then. Sousa actually has been carrying a green rating in his last couple of games, so maybe Sousa needs to get a run there as that first choice left back. About to make our way now to the final 5 minutes of this game. Unfortunately, that lower tempo might not suit late on, so we might try here a slightly higher tempo also. Let's chuck Stollery onto attack and just see if that might get something going late here in this game. And also, let's just go a little bit wider and try and grab a winner, because 3 points here would be absolutely massive. Also, let's turn off being more disciplined. We won't go expressive, locked up against the best team in the league, supposedly away from home, but hopefully that slightly higher tempo might pay off later. A lot of injury time here. We've got 6 minutes. We just make our way into it, and Sousa here with a chance from a corner. Hopefully can pick out the head of Ruslan or someone here at our near post. A few bodies there. Let's see what he can do. He tees it up beautifully, and Ruslan with a goal in the 2nd minute of injury time. Off the back of that, it's time to lower this tempo big time and time waste frequently. That could be a massive goal to hopefully set up a huge game second up in today's episode and move us into one of those top 3 spots, which of course gives us the chance to make our way up to the Bundesliga next season. Obviously, still early days, but while we're here, we'll pull these players back on support out wide, because pretty much anyone, apart from our striker, can go on to support or defend. Hopefully make sure here that we time waste well and can hold on to this comeback win, because changing the tempo has worked big time for us. Here we went to the lower tempo when we got that first goal through Charlie Allen, and now Ruslan there off the back of that higher one just bumps that one into the top right corner. Always a bit hard to tell if a higher tempo has much impact with a set piece, but thankfully we got it and are now starting to get on the front foot ever so slightly stats wise late. So I think there, my tempo tinkering, it might have worked. We picked up a big 3 points away from home against the preseason favourites, who might be looking for a new manager soon, because those guys certainly have been struggling so far this season. That will keep them well and truly inside the bottom half of the table, but thankfully Charlie Allen grabbed us the equaliser there off the back of the Hansen-Aronson goal at the hour mark, and then in the first couple of minutes of injury time, it was Ruslan, our big beautiful centre-back out of Georgia the youngster, who puts that one away and gives us all 3 points. So a big win for us there to continue our unbeaten start to the season here at Jahn Regensburg. Of course, a couple of draws in there, but no losses yet, so fingers crossed that continues. We're going to take on Eintracht Braunschweig off camera, and then I'll make my way through that big international break and hopefully be a second versus third clash when we come back to take on Heidenheim. And we've gone forward about a month off back of that first game of today's episode, but here are the highlights from Eintracht Braunschweig, and here we go off to a good start. Half hour in, Lewis Walden puts that one away in the top left corner. A few minutes later, a free kick, which thankfully Manrique puts away, and I thought here we were sailing to victory with a 2-0 lead, but then just before half time, Gomez here, wonderful dribble from him to make his way inside the box. Pretty poor defence. He makes it 2-1, and then Bullets for some reason lets that ball run through. He's suspended for this upcoming game. Think we won't miss him based on recent form, but Vidic makes it 2-2 just before halftime, and then with about 20 minutes left, it's Birchmus here with a yellow card and orange injury, who puts that one away, and we bottle a 2-0 lead in our first loss of the season, 3-2 defeat to Eintracht Braunschweig. As you can see there, stats-wise, bit hard to argue we deserved anything from that game, but unfortunately, our first defeat with this 4-2-3-1 here this season at Jahn Regensburg might even be our first defeat with it ever since we switched to it late last season when we did make our way up the table when it was all too late. But unfortunately, that does mean the situation I was hoping for going into the second game of today's episode isn't quite there, because now we're 3 points behind Heidenheim, but if we beat them, we could still jump above them depending on how badly we beat them, because their goal differential's 9. We're on 5, but unfortunately it means that both Braunschweig and Mainz have gone back above us as we now sit in 5th. But a win here, we would go back to 3rd at the very least, but could go up to 2nd if we put a few goals here past Heidenheim. So to be fair, it's not too bad, but quite tight there up near the top of that Zwei Bundesliga table. So hopefully here can pick up a win over Heidenheim. Also, that international break, thankfully there were no injuries, but a few players coming back from them recently. Uwe Dorm, he got injured in that loss to Eintracht Braunschweig. Racine Bullock suspended, also injured. Story got injured in a friendly during the international break, and Buller, he's just come back, of course, from that injury that kept him out of that Group of Earth game, which led to me signing a new striker for a formation that we were no longer using. But in the friendlies I've played since then, because a 3-week gap, I've been trying a 5-3-2. Let's bring it up here as we make our way over to my third tactic. As you can see, it probably needs some work, because honestly, it's a bit of a weird one, just trying to find something here that might make sense with 2 up top and 3 players now midfield, because that definitely was an issue with the 4-4-2, but unfortunately, it still needs work, because we look quite leaky goal-wise with it. A 3-2 win there over Eichstadt. You can see there Buller, a hat-trick. So certainly, he looks like a handy player when we can use him in a 2 up top system. I'm not going to trust it though yet, because then we lost 3-2 to Chemnitz, who are down in the Free Liga and a bottom half team. So certainly, that one's not quite ready to come out the kitchen just yet. It needs a few more ingredients, and we'll try and sort things out. But hopefully, I can figure out a way to get a 2-striker system going, because Buller does look like he might be a handy player. Just need to find a way to bring him in to the squad. But it does mean that going into the second game of today's episode, trying to find the data hub, Milton Dynamics, and the analyst report, we should be going with a 4-4-2. We're going to go back to the 4-2-3-1, because it's what's been working for the most part, up until that game I just played where we bottled things against Eintracht Braunschweig. But we're going to take on here Heidenheim with this formation. Fingers crossed it works. But these guys, as you saw before by that league table, are going a heck of a lot better than Werder Bremen, despite the fact that they also came down from the Bundesliga last season. So these guys doing about as well as expected. Just behind these days, the only undefeated team left in the two Bundesliga in Nuremberg, and they have a big gap on top now of 7 points. So if we can pick up a win here, we're probably doing those guys a favour before I think we take them on in our very next game. So a couple of big games I've got here in a row, and then, of course, Bayern Munich in the DFB Pokal. So I dare say that's what we're going to be coming back for in the next episode. But Heidenheim here, fingers crossed that we can pick up a result away from home, even with a formation that really shouldn't work against these guys. But obviously the 4-4-2, it was blooming useless if we can't beat a team like Grufer Fürth. So in terms of our team going into the second game of today's episode, Ramsey comes back in there in the advanced playmaker role. Also Garcia for the suspended Racine, Bullock and Sousa at left back, because Dawn's coming back from that injury, only recommended for 45 or so minutes. And also Sousa's recent form, as I mentioned when we brought him on in that first game, has been really, really good. So fingers crossed he might make a difference there at left back for this one. But apart from that, it's our first choice 11 here, as this time we are away, sit in the green as we take on this Heidenheim team, who no doubt will be in the red with a little bit of a blue trim. But big game for us here, second away from home, one of our bigger ones here in the first half of the season. Bullic, of course, suspended. We'll get through that pre-match interview. These guys are also going with a 4-2-3-1, but it looks like their midfielders a little bit more defensive than ours are. So fingers crossed here, might be able to go on the front foot a little bit more than they do and pick up a good result away from home. BP so far away form actually been pretty good here in the Zai Bundesliga this season, and 3 points here, as I said, would see us get back inside of that top three. Unfortunately, big missed opportunity there with that Eintracht Braunschweig game, because if we bet those guys, we'd definitely be inside of that top three, and actually could have got the chance here to put a gap on Heidenheim. Unfortunately, now we're trying to play catch-up, but fingers crossed we can do that 10 minutes in. This is quite an even game, as we do have one more shot than them, and Castillo, for some reason, I left in the team from the friendlies in orange injuries. To be fair, that gives me a pretty good reason to bring on Manrique, who's been one of our better players over the last month or so. So we'll do that. But before that sub goes through here, we try and put a ball into the mix. Castillo actually wins that one back for us. Maya tries to curve that one in the bottom right corner. Unfortunately, can't quite hit the target, and Carlos Manrique will come on. That's a bit of a whoopsie from me. Fingers crossed it doesn't prove too costly, as now he picks up a yellow card after coming straight on. So unfortunately, that balls up has proven a little bit costly. We've made a sub, and he's got a yellow card 1 minute after coming on. But now we've got a corner here, a good chance, and Sousa, of course, to pick out Ruslan. In that previous game in injury time, he does it again, but this time Ruslan puts it away with, I think, his right foot. So an interesting option there from our big Georgian centre-back, but looking quite good here with our near-post corners, even though this one a little bit unconventional on the volley. But he could have finished there from the young Georgian. He looks an absolute gem of going in our hands here at centre-back and makes it 1-0, albeit now we go down the other end of corner for Heidenheim. Thankfully, that one just glances across the face of goal. But early stages here looks like we're well and truly on the front foot with this 4-2-3-1, which is quite nice to see, because it was, of course, suggested a 4-4-2 would be good here. We praise at the right time, get rid of, I think, there a highlight that would have been for the home team. And now we go down the other end for a free kick. Manrique has scored these before, of course, did that in that Wiesbaden game. We would need a big comeback. Unfortunately, that time it just goes over the bar and about to make our way now into 3 minutes of added time. Unfortunately, can't quite put these guys away and make it 2-0 so far in this first half. But maybe it will happen now, because the highlight here, just as we're about to make our way to the final couple of seconds of injury time, Sousa will make his way forward. We'll square this one. Takes a pretty interesting deflection. Thankfully, Sousa, though, tracks back and gets us back on the ball. Picks out here Ostojic down that right-hand side, and a ton of space. Squares it for Lewis Walden. A brilliant chance, but their goalkeeper comes up with a huge save. Big chance for us there to make it 2-0 on the stroke of half-time. Unfortunately, it does not come off, and Ramsey can't find anyone there at the near post. Sousa definitely looks like a very handy corner taker and a bit of a chance magnet. Unfortunately, only one luck, but to be fair, we're looking quite good. Everyone out there is on a good rating, so I don't think we'll change anything here going into the second half, because it's looking pretty good for us in this game. Let's just hope that somehow we can find a way to make it 2-0. An early free kick here. Maya is in behind, squares it for Leighton Stewart, who puts it away. There's no VAR check. We make it 2-0. So thankfully, our halftime team talk worked. We told them they're doing well, but they could do a little bit better. And thankfully, that's what they've done here in the second half. Sousa again with that free kick, but really, it's pretty sloppy defence there, letting Maya get in behind from Heidenheim, and Stewart can poke that one home and pick up a much-needed goal for him and make it 2-0. But now, a yellow card here for Hubner will play things safe there and take him off for Carstens. Can't really take off Manrique. We do have a youngster in Bonvini that we've called up from our B team on the bench, but ideally won't use him unless this looks pretty well under control. We try and find someone there at the far post. Maya can't quite get a heel on it, but Sousa will play it in again, and Aaron Ramsey will put that one home. Lino Sousa is having a day out for us here as that wing back on attack and helps us make it 3-0 now. Maybe we can take off Garcia and give Bombini a debut from our B team, but Ramsey there with a good little finish to nutmeg their goalkeeper, but really that's now a couple of goals that Sousa's created. He's having a blinder, of course, bit of a honky assist for that Stewart goal to kick off the second half, but we are looking very good here with this 3-0 lead. Unfortunately, Ramsey, off the back of that goal, does pick up an orange injury, so Charlie Allen will come on him. Also, let's bring on Bombini here for the struggling Garcia, and while we're here as well, let's also actually put Bombini in the right place, and maybe again bring on Greenwood for Lewis Walden, seeing as he's going a bit fairly. So fingers crossed here, nothing funny happens, seeing as we brought Bombini on in the wrong position. Indeed, that's what happens. We'll switch it again there, even though that should have fixed it before when we made those subs for it. Unfortunately, before that actually can go through, it looks like here Bombini is playing centre-back for this highlight we see. So fingers crossed here, Heidenheim don't grab a goal back and find a way into this game. Interesting there from Lukic. He goes down despite that actually not going inside the inner box, but thankfully we find a way to clear that one. Interesting highlight, and thankfully Carstens can now go back to centre-back instead of defensive midfield. Bombini can make his debut in a far stronger position that he's more accustomed to, but we hold on currently to our 3-0 lead, going pretty well here against the team up in second away from home, and a 3-0 win, of course, will be enough for us to jump above them into second on that table. So currently, this would move us into one of those automatic promotion spots for the Bundesliga next season as we make our way to the final 10 minutes of this game. Time for us here to start time wasting just a little bit. Might be some players now who drop down to red hearts in the likes of Sousa. And as I say that, unfortunately, we're going to give Heidenheim here a way back into this game. We're pushing the back there, not too sure who from. Maybe Ostich, as that was down our right-hand side. He is still not too sure who gave that away, but unfortunately, there'll be a chance here for Heidenheim from the spot through Cortez. Lukic goes the right way, but good penalty, that one into the top left corner, and Oscar Cortez can make it 3-1. Unfortunately, that might also mean we don't go above them on the table with that goal differential now. That will be dead even. Maybe we go above them based on head-to-head, but making our way to the final 5 minutes, fingers crossed now they don't grab another goal because we'll time waste even more. And we've actually got a throw in inside the final third. Sousa, can he create 3 goals here in this one at Heidenheim? Manrique plays that forward to Allen. A tackle though. Heidenheim might get a chance on the counter-attack. Thankfully, we do get that ball back, then try and find Sousa down that left-hand side. To be fair, not a bad idea considering how well he's going. Interesting highlight this one, thankfully. Get that ball back there through Ostich and are back on the attack, but loose there. That was from Manrique. And good counter-attacking chance here for Heidenheim. A tackle from Carstens. They are still on the ball. Square it nicely for their striker. Lukic comes up with a big save, and then Manrique with a block to make sure his giveaway earlier doesn't prove too costly. So Heidenheim here are coming home with a little bit of a wet sail, and it could cost us second spot on the league. And again here, they're on the attack. Good switch out there to Fluterback down their left-hand side. A player there on a yellow card plays it back to him, and it is the goal scorer. And Cortez. Lukic looking a bit dodgy in goal, despite the fact that really, on a couple of occasions, he's gone to ground when he hasn't really needed to. Hasn't proved costly, but now we've got a goal kick here with only 3 minutes left. We should be able to hold on for this win. It's a poor pass there though, and Ruslan does get beaten to the ball, but thankfully Lukic makes up for that shocker with a save. We'll just up our tempo and see if that might stop these highlights coming through, because we've looked very shaky since we started trying time waste here in this game. They're still on the attack here, Heidenheim, but thankfully that highlight does eventually come to an end, and we pick up on paper A pretty comfy 3-1 win for the most part. It was quite comfy, but those last 10 or so minutes, we really try and find a way to bowl it, kind of reminiscent of Eintracht Braunschweig. We are looking a little bit dodgy when we do take a lead in our games, but thankfully this time we hold on and pick up 3 points, 2 away wins here in today's episode against teams who last season were up in the Bundesliga, and hopefully that might be enough for us to jump above these guys on the head-to-head record into second, and indeed that is the case. So thankfully we are now in one of those automatic promotion spots up to the Bundesliga for next season. Fingers crossed we can hold on to it off the back of that big 3-1 win away from home at Heidenheim. So we tried to make that one a little bit interesting late there, but thankfully get back on track off the back of that bottle job against Braunschweig at home and pick up a 3-1 win there over Heidenheim and move ourselves back into one of those automatic promotion spots in the 2 Bundesliga. I say move ourselves back into one, doing it for the first time because of course earlier we only made our way up to 3rd, but thankfully that loss to Braunschweig, not too costly at Nuremberg, will take on next episode in our first game at the start of next week. That'll be for you guys. It'll be interesting. Hopefully can find a way to take points off those guys and maybe close that gap on them and try and pick up the title as well. But currently we're looking good, but still it's very tight up there near the top of the table. There's a fair few teams within striking distance when we slip up that we do make, and we could be in a little bit of trouble trying to make our way up to the Bundesliga for next season. But I think that will do it for today's episode. Some good results there. Just that Braunschweig one I played off camera, which was a little bit frustrating. Also, actually, an injury update. A few we picked up in that most recent game. Castillo out for 6 to 8 days. He probably won't feature in that Nuremberg game. But to be fair, he shouldn't have really featured in that one as well. That was a boo-boo from me. We'll put Manrique back in for that one. And Ramsey is also injured. 1 to 2 days, so thankfully not too serious as he scores a goal in his first game back from injury as well. But that will do it for today's episode. So an absolute blunder for us there in that second one where we pick up a 3-1 win over Heidenheim, and of course also picked up that win over Werder Bremen. Just a bit disappointing that we bottled that one against Eintracht Braunschweig, but thankfully it doesn't prove too costly, up in second in the 2 Bundesliga. But if you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. As I said, we'll come back the start of next week. We've got Nuremberg next up. Kind of have to come back for that one as the top of the table, even though that one is back at home. And then we'll take on Bayern Munich in the second round of the DFB Pokal. To be fair, not too sure if we'll put out a super strong team for that game, considering the fact we're quite high up in this Bundesliga. But may as well take them on just in case we do find a way with a tactic we know actually works this season to beat them. But I dare say that's wishful thinking. But until then, for Bayern as well as Nuremberg, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.